Welcome back to Bull Sessions here on 680 KFEQ. Here's your hosts, Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
Focus on the Farmer's coming up, Bradley, in a little bit.
Okay.
We're still talking to Kurt.
Now, if somebody wanted to send in a Focus on the Farmer, I'm going to quiz you, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have to do?
Well, they have to go to bull@willcross.net.
Okay.
That's our email.
Okay.
Or they can call the office.
Do you know what the office's phone number?
I do. It's 660-535-4444.
Okay.
Am I passing so far?
Yep. What else could they do to suggest someone to be the Focus on the Farmer?
I told them they could email or call, or they could stop by.
They can stop by.
They could stop by.
We've got this big building.
You will find me working very diligently, and Bradley with his feet up on the desk at the front office.
Yep.
Usually
I'm not going to deny that.
Listening to, what was that song Miles was playing for us while we was gone to the break there?
Oh, Blue Ain't Your Color, Keith Urban.
Blue Ain't Your Color, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
No.
Keith Urban.
No.
Yeah.
He loves that one.
I'm more of an Eric Church guy, but you can stop
kind
there.
Kind of rebellious.
Look for the big USA flag on top of the grain leg.
Yes.
North end of town. That's us.
Looks cool.
You can stop in, and see us and say, hey, I think farmer so-and-so would make a great Focus on the Farmer, and we'll focus on him that week, the next week. And we just love to hear from you. And maybe you missed what we were talking about. Maybe you say, oh, man, I tuned in late, missed the list that Brad had, because those are always so valuable.
Oh, awesome.
And if you want to go on YouTube, you can check us out on YouTube. Bull Sessions, Will Cross Bull Sessions, and you can find us and all of our past ones and say, oh, that was good, or oh, that wasn't so good. But
don't you have to click on videos or something?
Yeah, well, on YouTube you can.
Right. And you can give it the thumbs up or the thumbs down, too, so you can be involved.
Yeah, and if you put the thumbs down, we'll know it's you, Miles. You have like 14.
Okay, you got me.
You've got 14 Google accounts. I'm tracking your IP.
I've been making more just so I can thumbs down your videos.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I love what you guys do.
Okay, you should.
You better. You created this. You created this mess, Miles.
Oh.
You and Libby.
Well, seriously, we have somebody neat and interesting to talk to.
Yes.
Here in the studio.
We do have.
Imported all the way from Kansas.
Hiawatha.
We have Kurt with NutraDrip irrigation systems, and we've been talking about drip irrigation. And he's awesome on this stuff. And we're learning about, it's, I think he said 16 inches deep, 60-inch centers. Mm-hmm. It's 20 to 30% more efficient than a center pivot, depending upon weather. Yep. And, there's lots of fine print with all this and some things that we need to look out about the water and whatnot. So we're actually learning some good stuff, and I'm actually taking notes.
I saw that. And when you're taking notes, I have access to them.
Yes.
I had a question for Kurt. My farm ground is all hill ground. How do we irrigate going uphill? I'm just curious about this.
You bet. So the drip tape or the drip line that we use has an emitter that's been extruded into the tape, and it's usually every 24 or 30 inches. The emitter that we use on hilly ground actually has a pressure compensator built into every single one of those emitter points. So as we go up and down hills, the bottom of the hill, we might have 30 pounds of pressure. At the top of the hill, we might have 10, but it's going to put out the exact same amount of water at every point because there's a regulator built into those little emitters. So the emitter reaches full flow at 6 pounds of pressure, all the way up to 50 pounds of pressure. It's going to put out the exact same amount of water. So no matter where we're at in that topography, that's going to be a uniform distribution of that water.
Yeah. I was curious about that because I thought, well, you just turn this thing on. It's just like in your garden, a soaker hose or something like that. It's just going to do its own thing.
Now, we had a vocabulary word in there, topography. Can I even say that right? Can you elaborate some more on, how that is the lay of the land and...
Right.
I'm moving my hands back and forth, and now Miles is making fun of me.
I'm sorry, I thought you were conducting an orchestra.
So just to look the other way, Miles.
The topography, we look at every field individually. Every field's going to get its own design, its own layout, its own blueprint based on how much slope there is. Is it a uniform slope, and are we running the water downhill, or are we going up and down, up and over terraces or up and over hills? And we can push this thing pretty far. We had a field we did up near Denison, Iowa this past year, and there was 80 feet of elevation from the top of the hill to the bottom. Oh, wow. And his yield map was just amazingly uniform. I think Kelly Garrett up there, he won the first place in the corn growers contest, 290 bushel an acre in Iowa.
Really? And that irrigator helped him get there.
It did. And they only irrigated 2.5 inches of water this year. So they had a really nice amount of rain. They didn't need the system for water, but they used it to fertigate and put out extra fertilizer through the drip system. And so they were able to capture the high end there on that farm.
And they eliminated those times it could have been stress when you were getting a little dry. You could hit it right then.
Exactly. So we're really monitoring what the plant needs, and we actually take tissue samples every week, send that to a lab. Within 2 days, we have results back, and then we'll adjust our fertigation plan based on what the tissue of the plant says it needs. So if we're getting low in nitrogen or phosphorus, sulfur, whatever it is, we can then inject that through the tape, and by the next week, we'll see a response in the tissue of the plant. So we're really trying to eliminate the stress that the plant's undergoing.
And
High tech.
well, you showed, I think we were up at the Nebraska Power Farm Show, and you showed me where you were pulling those samples, and you saw a huge amount of nutrients uptake at a certain stage of corn. I think you've got that. Is that same book there?
It is. So one of the things we do to help understand the need of the plant is to put together a plan that basically looks at nutrient uptake based on yield. So there's been a lot of research done at universities that draw out these pretty charts that say, okay, you're going to take up most of your nutrients right at tassel time, or most of the nitrogen especially. Okay. So this example I have here in front of me is for nitrogen. For a 350 bushel corn crop, in 1 week's time, it needs 112 pounds of nitrogen. So it really lays out the blueprint that you've got to have a lot of nutrients there for a high yield crop. And so we can build this blueprint ahead of time. This is our plan, and then we're going to follow with tissue sample to verify, is the plant happy? Are we stressing anywhere? And how is the plant performing?
Okay, the feasibility. Now, what did you say, 300 and some bushel corn?
350 was this target on this field.
But that you'll run this through the system. There'd be some liquid fertilizer of some
Right, so we're using 28 or 32%. There's nothing fancy about the nitrogen we use. When we get into the phosphorus and potassium, we have to be a little bit careful about which product. It's usually going to be the 918-9 or an 0025-18, so something that's a little cleaner than a standard 1034-0.
Okay. Always neat. Well, and that's one thing that, just because you have irrigation doesn't mean that, he's got a center pivot, he's going to raise 200 plus bushel corn. Well, or, he's got irrigation, he's got drip irrigation, he's going to raise so many more bushels of corn or so many bushels of beans. Well, I like to talk about fertility. Well, I can have all the fertility in the world, but if I don't have the water there, I'm not going to get the top yield. And the flip side goes, you can have all the water in the world, but if you don't have the fertility there, you're not going to get, that benefit. And we've looked at, we talked with Brian from Indiana about tile. Well, he had too much water at the wrong time. Now we're talking with Kurt, trying to get water when we need it. So it's it's a very complicated system, but you break it down into little parts. You got to have the food there. You don't want too much and you don't want not enough. And it's just kind of a package that, we keep tweaking and learning each year. What do we got to do different? And I was wondering, Kurt, did you have any, like hearing that guy trying to grow 350 bushel corn, that's exciting. Do you have any more success stories that you can tell us about on guys that have been pushing that envelope?
So one of the producers we've been working with is Dan Lepkus out in Illinois. This was his second year with drip irrigation. It's on a piece of really sandy soil. And last year, his drip averaged on the 100 acres of drip, it averaged 299. This year, he beat that, and he did 311 and was awarded first place in Illinois for National Corn Growers Yield Contest.
311.
311. That was AgriGold.
AgriGold.
Really? Okay, good. That is awesome. We happen to sell AgriGold, don't we, Bradley?
I just work there.
Well, that's questionable at times.
Okay. Well, I have documentation that says I work there.
You got a pay stub, right?
Well, I don't even think we get those.
I've got one burning question I got to ask you, Kurt. Can we afford to do this?
So a lot of the producers that come to me, they're got kids returning to the farm. They're looking to make their farm better, and so they're looking at going out and buying land for $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 an acre. And if you can take an investment like drip irrigation and spend $1,500 or $2,000 an acre on land you already own, it is a much better investment than going out and buying land. So if you're looking to get more out of what you already have, drip irrigation is usually a 3 to 7 year payback. Even less if we can get these corn prices to come back up a little bit.
Sure.
Now, have you done any work with the drip in soybeans?
We have. And soybeans are, on the fertility, soybeans are a little bit trickier because we got to figure out how to hang on to all those pods. But there's definitely a lot of potential there. We've been kind of sitting in that 80, 85 bushel range here for a couple years and learning how we can bump that up even higher.
Well, there's a lot there, lot there to deal with.
There's a lot of potential there. It's a really exciting time to be looking at ways to make things
hit
better.
You again. You've sparked something on my mind back there on the cost, but we're going to have to do it here in just a minute. We will be right back with more Bull Sessions on 680 KFEQ.